All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the first Towerlight podcast of the semester. I am Jonathan Munshaw, joined by Matt Hamilton as always.
Hi everyone, I'm your sports editor Matt Hamilton.
Yes, unfortunately we'll not be joined by Jesse Jones today because he graduated. So,
oh man,
I know, very sad.
It's a sad day.
So glad to be with you for this week. Hopefully we'll try to keep it under 30 minutes and under 20 minutes maybe. If we're feeling up to it.
Hopefully, but maybe we should shoot for 15 so that
maybe.
if we go over.
Then
because we tend to go over. That's just what we do here.
Over. It's just going to happen. So to preview the NFL season, Matt and I are going to go through some power rankings. We went 1 through 32. If anyone has ever tried to do their own power rankings before, you'll know that it's a lot harder than it sounds. So especially when Matt and I were just talking about before we started recording, how tough it is to sort through like the middle tier of teams. So we're just going to start from the bottom and work our way up and talk about a couple groups at a time. And hopefully we'll get you on your way because we're recording this on Thursday right before the first game of the season. So we'll get you on your way to the first Sunday of football. So so let's just go in groups of 5, Matt.
Okay.
I'll start off by doing my 5. Last, I have the Oakland Raiders. Then I have Buffalo Bills, Jacksonville Jaguars, Tennessee Titans, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, we have quite a different bottom 5 here. Last place I have Jacksonville Jaguars, so we have that. And then second to last, Raiders, then the St. Louis Rams, then the Cleveland Browns,
That's okay.
and the New York Giants are my
Giants.
bottom 5.
Dark horse.
I don't like the Giants. I just don't think they're very good.
So obviously we're not going to talk about every team just because we'd be here forever.
I mean, we could be, but I don't think you guys are going to want to listen to that. So,
but quickly, Matt, just go through, just talk about, just say 2 or 3 things about why you put the teams where you did.
Jacksonville being last, it was kind of by default. I couldn't really pick a team that was last, but I think Jacksonville is going to be 2 or 3 years from really doing anything. So that's why I picked them last. The Rams fell because Sam Bradford tore his ACL, so you got Sean Hill starting, who's from Maryland, so that goes for him, but he's not a good quarterback. The Browns, from what I saw out of the quarterbacks this preseason, was just, it doesn't matter if Johnny Manziel started or Brian Hoyer. They're not going to be a great team. And then the Giants were awful in the preseason. Well,
their offense was.
Yeah, because they actually had a decent record in the preseason. But their offense, which was what was the problem last year, is not improved really at all. So that's why I kept them down. I'm not impressed by the Giants at all. I also don't like the Giants, but those aren't exclusive or anything.
Yeah. So just a couple quick things for my teams. I think Josh McCown was a terrible move for the Buccaneers. I'm a big believer in statistical regression, so I don't think that he's gonna reproduce what he did last season. So that's why I have them down there. And I think the Raiders and the Bills are the 2 worst teams because I don't really know what they're doing, to be honest. I don't know how they're building those teams. Why the Raiders signed so many old guys is beyond me. Why the Bills still have they signed Kyle Orton, but that's not going to do anything, so they'll be terrible.
They're 2 of the most poorly run teams in all of football.
So the next group of 5, at 27, I have the St. Louis Rams, then the Browns, then the Minnesota Vikings, then the New York Jets, then the Houston Texans.
Well, we're kind of like in this one. I have the Bills, then the Vikings, then the Cowboys, and then the Texans. Is that 4? Okay, and then the Titans.
And the Titans, the reason, I'm just not big on the Titans. I think they're a very boring team. Nothing about them interests me this year. They could be one of those teams that has like a magical 9-7 year and backs into the playoffs, but I just don't know about that.
I think Jake Locker will be better, but I just don't think that they're that good of a team. They don't really have the running game yet. Bishop Sankey's good, but I don't think he's going to be a star yet. So nothing wows me about the Titans at all.
Yeah.
They're there.
And the Texans, some people are buying the Texans to be like a resurgent team this year, which the stats back that up, but who's going to play quarterback? That's my thing. And that's
Ryan Mallett.
That's going to be a common theme for most of these power rankings is how the strength of the quarterback lines up with the strength of the team. And the Texans have a great defense, but they're either going to have Ryan Mallett or they're going to have Tom Savage or they're going to have there's somebody else.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Who's
the starter right now, but
Maybe.
He's bouncing around from team to team because he never actually does well with any of the
Yeah.
teams he does. So.
Yeah, so I think the Texans' defense definitely has the potential to be a top 10 defense, but the offense, I think, could be bottom 5.
Yeah.
Because all it takes is for Arian Foster to get hurt, and then they become very one-dimensional Andre Johnson-y.
Which could happen easily because Arian Foster has been hurt many seasons.
And they don't have Ben Tate anymore.
Yeah, Ben Tate's a Brown.
Well, we'll see how long that lasts. Terrence.
Yeah,
Terrence can snipe his job.
Why not? Let's throw Terrence West in there.
All right, anything else you want to say about that group, Matt?
The Cowboys are awful.
The Cowboys are terrible.
That's what I want to say. I don't like anything that they're doing. I don't even like Tony Romo, really. DeMarco Murray and Dez Bryant, sure, they're good, but the rest of the team, no.
So the next group of 5, I have the Cowboys at 22, so a little bit higher than Matt, but I'm still not buying them. I think they're going to be pretty bad. Then we get the Cardinals, who I think that they've just lost too many people this offseason. They've had suspensions. They've had injuries on defense. And Carson Palmer could turn to ash by the end of the season because of that division. He's just going to get melted by Aaron Donald. It's just going to, reduce him to nothing. Then the Giants. I just think that I try not to put too much stock in the preseason. So I just don't think Eli Manning can be as bad as he was last year. Maybe he will be. But I have the Giants at 20. Then I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big thing against the Steelers this year is they still have the oldest defense in the league. And granted, they drafted Ryan Shazier, and I think Shazier is going to be a very good player in the NFL. And I do have some Steelers bias, but I'm putting that aside.
Bias against the Steelers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because if you were... Well,
oh, no, I'm not for anything.
Not on this podcast.
And I just... they drafted Shazier, but they didn't make any signings. They lost Larry Foote. They lost Ziggy Hood. So I don't see what the defense did to get any better. And the Steelers constantly are falling back on their defense. When they were a perennial AFC Championship team or AFC Championship contender, that's what they relied on. And they just don't have that anymore. So I have the Steelers down, and then I have the Redskins at 18, which I think is pretty fair for them. I think they have a lot of offensive upside, and they have a ton of defensive downside. So
yeah, well, great that you mentioned the Redskins, because that's where I start my list. Number 22. The reason I have him 22 is because of their defense. And RG3, you never know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
He could get hurt easily, and then there goes a good chunk of your offense. But I think they can turn it around, which is why I have him above Dallas, because I think that if the defense does anything, their offense will be able to produce with Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon. But 21, I have the Jets. 20, I have the Buccaneers. I'm with you. I don't like Luke McCown that much. I think... McCown brothers.
Luke McCown is probably still in the league somewhere, don't worry.
Josh McCown, I don't like Josh McCown that much. He's decent, but he had Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall to throw to last year. Much different than Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson, who are both decent, but they're not the other two. Then 19, I have the Dolphins. 18, I have the Lions. The Lions, I think they could be a surprise team. If their defense can step up and their secondary can step up, they have Golden Tate now, they have Calvin Johnson, hopefully a healthy Reggie Bush, and then Matthew Stafford. They could do something. I don't know what. It could be 8-8, but it could also be 11-5 if they play their cards right. But I have Lions at 18.
Okay. Then in my next group, I have the Miami Dolphins at 17. I have the San Diego Chargers at 16, who, depending upon what I see in the week 1 here, I could potentially move them up. And after week 1, we'll see. Then I have the Atlanta Falcons, who I think Julio Jones and Roddy White just mean too much to them, and they have too much injury history. I think that the Falcons could be a top 10 team in my power rankings if you could say right now that both of them would play 16 games, but I don't know if I believe that.
Hey, Harry Douglas was great for me in fantasy last
Harry
year.
Douglas is a solid player,
yeah.
But as we saw last year what happens when you have just Harry Douglas, and last year was with Tony Gonzalez. They don't have Tony Gonzalez anymore.
It's true.
If anyone's watched Hard Knocks, it's really funny to watch Matt Ryan say into the camera, I miss you, Tony. It's so sad and so funny at the same time. Then I have your Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore's Baltimore Ravens.
You have it at what,
14.
Come on.
I'll explain my reasoning in a second. And then the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm higher on the Chiefs than most people. I think that the defense is still going to be pretty good. I think, Brandon Flowers, they let him go. So the secondary might not be as good. But that front seven is still really good. Jamal Charles is still really good. I mean, Jamal Charles is amazing. And... sure, they don't have the easy schedule that they had last year, but I think that people are just writing them off too quickly. The offensive line is definitely an issue, But if they get anything out of Travis Kelce, who's their new rookie tight end, who seems like he's a big playmaker, and Dwayne Bowe, as long as he does something that he didn't do last year.
Well, he's suspended, so that's a great start to the season.
Just for the first game, right?
Yeah.
So I think when he comes back, I think that if he does anything is an improvement over nothing. So, but my reasoning for the Ravens, I really did put my Ravens bias aside. I promise. Still hate Ray Lewis though.
Did you see that
went
statue?
up today, and I got so sad about
that
it.
statue is, I can't even. It was like, and it was. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Pure Ray Lewis. When you go to the stadium and see that statue, you're gonna get pumped up. I get pumped up just talking about it. Okay, well,
maybe one day there'll be a Terrence West statue outside the Browns Stadium. I'll be so happy.
Yeah.
No. Oh, you don't know that.
Well, I love Terrence. Maybe we'll see.
But the Ravens, I have two concerns with them. One is the secondary. I just don't think the secondary is very good. I think that a lot of teams are going to be able to pass on them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think their linebackers, they do have a very good group of linebackers. I think Haloti Ngata needs to play better than he did last year. I have some concerns about what he's doing, but I think the linebackers are very good. Front seven overall is a solid group, but the secondary is pretty terrible. So I think teams are going to be able to throw on them very easily. And my other concern is that Joe Flacco is only as good as the weapons around him. And I think that you envision a scenario where Jacoby Jones and Torrey Smith and Marlon Brown, all three of them have a very similar season to the season that they had last year. But Dennis Pitta, he could get hurt again. Flacco's very reliant on Pitta to be a productive player and to see him over the middle of the field. They signed Owen Daniels, who is just Owen Danielsing everywhere.
Yeah, he didn't really touch the field, but he's on our team, I think. Yeah,
and Steve Smith, Steve Smith is a talented player, but he is on his last legs in the league.
How could you say that?
Have you seen him play? I mean, he's still a productive receiver, don't get me wrong, but people in Carolina were freaking out that they lost him, and he only had like 700 yards last year. He scored a ton of touchdowns, but he was basically the only red zone threat for the Panthers. So, and, you don't know what you're going to get out of Ray Rice when he comes back from his suspension.
That's for sure.
He could just carry over, and you can say what you want. If you believe that most of his issues last year were because of the offensive line, and you think that the zone blocking scheme for the Ravens and Gary Kubiak this year is going to be that much better, you can definitely make a case that the Ravens' offense will be solid. But I just have too many questions to put them above 14. And 14 could still potentially be a playoff team, obviously.
Yep.
I think the Ravens could totally get the wild card. I think the Bengals are going to win the division this year. But I still think the Ravens could be a wild card team. So don't take the 14 as I think they're going to miss the playoffs, because they could definitely make it. I just think that they have too many concerns right now for me to put them any higher.
I take what you say, and I understand. Actually, I think you have to go down to 12. We got sidetracked on the Ravens, so we have to go back.
Dolphins, Chargers, Falcons, Ravens, Chiefs. That's 5.
Okay. You're right. Well, then I have the Falcons at 17, basically for the reasons you said there. The Panthers at 16. I just think that without the wide receivers that they had last year, it's going to be tough for them to develop chemistry. Steelers at 15. I just don't like the Steelers that much, but for some reason they are always competitive.
Well, they were a terrible team last year up until the second half. They went on that tear in the second half and finished 8-8, but for the first part of the season they were awful.
And I just don't think that they've improved. I mean, they got Bell and Blunt,
but then they lost Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, and Antonio Brown's gonna be the number one wide receiver, but then it's Wheaton after that. I don't know if Wheaton's a true number 2.
And Heath Miller is
and their defense is it's getting worse.
Yeah.
So I don't like the Steelers.
I don't get it.
Then I have the Chiefs. I kind of like the Chiefs' defense. And if you have Jamal Charles, you're going to at least be able to advance the ball, even if Alex Smith can't throw a pass. Well, Dwayne Bowe, he was killing me on fantasy for the past 3 years, so I have a vendetta against Dwayne Bowe. So I put them 14. Do we go down to 13?
Yep, 13.
Okay, 13 is the Chargers. I'm not sold on the Chargers either. I don't really like the run game. Phil Rivers can pass it, so that's a positive for him, and he always turns it on at the end of the season. And then their defense it's decent and it has potential to be good, but it hasn't been that good yet. But they have potential. I think they could slip into the top 10.
Yeah, the defense. I think the defense is the biggest concern for me for the Chargers.
Yeah.
I need to see something out of the defense before I move them up, which is why I said see how they do in week 1, and we'll take it from there. So my next group, I have the Detroit Lions at 12. Same kind of things that I said with Matt. I have them a little bit higher because I think Calvin Johnson's production is going to improve this year with Golden Tate. Because Golden Tate is the best receiver that he's played or played with as a Lion. no more Titus Young arrests, no more Nate Burleson arm breaks.
Ryan Broyles.
Ryan Broyles.
So,
who was that white guy that played for them last year?
man.
Joseph Fourier? Or no, he's a tight end.
Well, he is white.
Chris Durham, that's who it is. Chris Durham.
There it is.
So, Golden Tate is going to improve Calvin Johnson kind of vicariously, I think.
I also agree with
Yeah,
you.
and I think that Jork Bell is going to take on a little bit more of a role in the offense now. I think Reggie Bush is still a talented guy, but I think that he might take more of the Darren Sproles role in that offense and make Bell the first and second down back.
And I think that would make them better if he could be used in those situations and not have to kill his body on first and second down. So that's definitely good for the Lions.
Yeah. So then I had the Lions, and so that's only one team. Wow, I talked a lot on that.
Yeah, I know.
Then I had the Panthers, the Chicago Bears, because I think their offense has a ton of upside. Panthers I'm not as low on because Cam Newton is just a productive NFL player. Kelvin Benjamin I think could be good. Maybe not this year. And I think that the front seven of the defense will still be good enough to win them some games.
Yeah.
Then I have the Indianapolis Colts and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
Is that 5?
We can't count here at the Towerlight. We don't know.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, yeah, that is 5. Okay.
Well, my list, at 12, I have the Cardinals. I think their defense will still be pretty strong, which is why I'm holding
Their secondary is still good.
Yeah, and that's why I'm holding on hope for them. Palmer, yeah, he's on his last couple legs, but I think Larry Fitzgerald's going to help him out this year. He's been kind of under the radar for the past 2 years, and I still think he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. Then number 11, I have the Ravens. Hear me out on this, why I put them 3 rankings higher than Munch did. I think our offense will be strong, at least passing. I think the weapons that we have, they're better than last year, I'd say. I think Torrey Smith, he'll be used over the top, which is good. Jacoby Jones, probably over the top, maybe a couple slants. But Steve Smith is this Derek Mason type guy. And Joe Flacco used that very well when he had him. And it's almost like another security blanket. I think he'll be kind of similar to Dennis Pitta, where on third downs, when he's scrambling around looking for someone, which is last season he would just throw it to no one, I think he'll be able to find Smith or Pitta. So they'll be able to move the ball better. Then you got the secondary. Well, the secondary it's weak right now. I'm going to admit it's weak. But if you can get Webb back healthy, if you can get Jimmy Smith back healthy, the guys that we have, Asa Jackson, Shockey Brown, are pretty good, third and fourth guys. So I think that they're not going to be great, but I think they can be better than what they are now. So I think 9 and 7 would be what we're going to finish at, and I think we'll make the playoffs. Then I have 10, the Colts. They're going to be good just because they have Andrew Luck, and he can throw. They have Reggie Wayne. They have weapons, T.Y. Hilton. Their defense, front seven, looks like it's going to be decent, especially with Arthur Jones now. But
and DeQuell Jackson.
Yeah, DeQuell Jackson. But offensive line, it's a little iffy. So I put them at 10. 9, I have the Bears. I think Jay Cutler is going to just air it out. You have Matt Forte running. If they can get anything from their defense, they could potentially win the NFC North. I mean, the Packers are good, but they're going to give them a run. And then, do I go down to 8? Yeah, I go down to 8.
Yep.
Okay, the Bengals, who are in our division, I just think that they have even more weapons. They have A.J. Green. Gio Bernard is going to be great in his second season. Andy Dalton needs to perform because they just gave him $100 million plus, so he better do it. And then their defense, yeah, they lost Michael Johnson, but I still think they'll be pretty good. So I gotta say that the Bengals are going to win the division, but that the Ravens could give them a run.
I think the Bengals are the deepest team in the league, honestly.
They could
in terms of the way that their roster is constructed, I don't think they're the best, but they're definitely the deepest. Which leads me to, I guess we kind of got a weird number going on here. So let's just do the next 2 teams real quick.
Yeah, so we can do the top 5 and really get excited.
So then 7, I have the Bengals. 6, I have the Patriots. I think the Patriots are kind of held back by Gronkowski's upside. Well, they're boosted by Gronkowski's upside right now, but then they're lowered by his injury, his injury proneness. That wasn't grammatically correct at all.
Well,
we
don't need to use correct grammar here.
Who does that? Who does that?
Okay, so you had those 2. I had at 7 the Eagles. I just think that their offense will be high powered enough, and kind of like the Bears, if they can get enough from their defense. I mean, they're playing the NFC East, so it's not going to be very difficult to beat those teams. Maybe the Redskins will give them a run, but they should easily win that division. Then 6, I have the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is going to air it out, but he has a little less of, he lost James Jones, and he'll be giving it to Eddie Lacy more often, which isn't a bad thing. But I just think that they're going to need to get a lot out of their defense, more than they did last year, to be successful. So we'll see how that works.
So top 5. Let's just read our top 5s first with no explanation.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to it.
Should we go? You go 5, I go 5.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. This is gonna get exciting.
Okay.
Towerlight.
So 5, I have New Orleans Saints.
I have New Orleans.
Oh my God.
We got one right. There you go.
I think their defense is going to be good again. I think Rex Ryan is a great defensive coordinator.
Rob Ryan.
Oh, sorry, Rob Ryan.
Well, Rex Ryan was a good defensive coordinator for the Ravens, so you aren't wrong.
So I think that their defense is going to be good again. I think anytime you have Drew Brees, that puts you in a position to win. Also, they were a much better team when Sean Payton is their coach.
Yeah.
So I think that helps them a lot. So, New Orleans, I have 5. Anything else?
Drew Brees. With Drew Brees, you're able to pass the ball ways that many quarterbacks can't do it. So if Jarius Byrd and the rest of that defense can step up, which they should, I think they'll be better than they have been in a while. They're going to be a good team and compete for the Super Bowl too. They're going to be a very good team.
Then 4, I have the San Francisco 49ers.
I have the New England Patriots.
Oh, intriguing. I think the 49ers lost far too much on defense to be productive. They still might win 10 games, but when we're looking at who are potential Super Bowl contenders, if the NFC Championship game is the 49ers and the Seahawks, or the 49ers and the Packers, granted, they'll have a lot of their playmakers back by then. They'll have Aldon Smith back. They'll probably have Navarro Bowman back. I just think that they still lost. I think Dante Whitner, he's not that great in coverage, but he's a really good tackler. And he's just he's a threat back there to hit receivers coming over the middle. Lost him to the Browns, obviously. And I think on offense, I think that we just don't know what they're going to be, to be honest. They brought in Steve Johnson. They drafted, they drafted somebody.
Carlos Hyde? Or are you talking wide receivers?
Wide receiver. Well, Carlos Hyde as well.
Yeah, I can't think of the wide receiver.
We just don't know what they're going to be on offense. Frank Gore, I'm a big believer in Frank Gore still this year.
Yeah.
I think that just looking at his numbers, they haven't gone down over the past couple of years. They have gone down, but not to the point where you're freaking out this is going to be his drop-off year or anything like that. I just don't know if you really know what they are on offense, and I think that in terms of their total number of wins this year, if they're missing Bowman for the first half of the season, they're missing Aldon Smith for 9 games, they're potentially missing, who was that linebacker that just got arrested for domestic violence?
McDonald?
McDonald. Yeah.
Well, he's going to be...
Anyways, potentially 6 games.
Yeah, depending on how the case goes and if they can get it done quick enough. So he could be out as well.
So I just don't think they're going to be as good this year overall.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with that, but I do... Well, we'll see.
Okay.
The Patriots I just think that Tom Brady this year, if he can get a healthy Gronk, he'll have a lot of weapons. Edelman, he'll have a healthy Amendola, but, you never know when they're going to get hurt. But on paper right now, I would say that they're a good team, and their defense is going to be pretty solid. More solid than a lot of Patriots defenses have been.
Yeah.
And that would be one of the reasons why they
Darrelle
haven't...
Revis.
Yeah, and that would be one of the reasons why they haven't made the Super Bowl in a while is because their defense. So I think with that stepped up, and you have Tom Brady still throwing it like he always throws it, they're going to be... I think that those two, the Broncos and Patriots, are the 2 best by far in the AFC. So I think they'll make it that far at least.
Well, my third team is the Green Bay Packers. I have them higher than you, obviously. I think that they're the 2nd best team in the NFC right now. Especially, if you're making a ranking for who might win the Super Bowl, could the 49ers be higher than the Packers? I definitely think so. But right now, the Packers are the better team. I think that they always manage to pull together a secondary somehow. Drafted Clinton Dix. I think that's going to be big for them. And I think Eddie Lacy, he's getting another year now. I think Jared Boykin can be very James Jones-like. I don't think that they're going to miss him a ton. So I just like a lot. I just like the Packers a lot. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to break his collarbone again.
Yeah, the Packers was one I struggled with. I thought that they could be up there, but at 3, I'm going with the Broncos. The Broncos, I find, are the best team in the AFC by a good amount. The Patriots will give them a fight, but the Broncos improved on at least defense with T.J. Ward, with DeMarcus Ware. They're going to be better, and they needed to be better. On offense, you lose Wes Welker, but I find when you have Peyton Manning, it doesn't really matter who you have at wide receiver. They're going to one of them's going to be a star, or he'll make someone else a star.
I think Emmanuel Sanders will fill in just fine there.
Yeah, and I don't think that'll be a problem. Their offense, Monty Ball is a little bit of a mystery. You want him to be as successful as Munshaw did in that offense, but you don't know yet. But I still think that they're the best team in the AFC, and right now I don't think that anyone's going to beat them on their way to the Super Bowl. So
yeah,
they're my number 3 right now because of Peyton Manning, really.
Yeah. So then number 2, I have Denver Broncos. Basically all the same reasons that you said, Matt. But I just think that they're better than the Packers. So.
Well, at number 2, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Here's my reasoning. Okay, last year I felt that the 49ers and Seahawks were the 2 best teams in the league. And really whoever won that game was going to win the Super Bowl. It didn't matter what the Broncos did. But the 49ers lost some people in defense. But I just think that the system that they run, the coaches that they have, they're going to be able to find replacements that will come in and contribute. Maybe not as well as Bowman, maybe not as well as Dante Whitner, but I think that they'll be able to contribute enough where this defense is still going to be a top 5 defense. And then on offense, I think they'll be better because they needed to step it up. That was something that they didn't do as well last season. Gore with Carlos Hyde and whoever else they have a lot of running backs that they could throw in there. Lattimore might factor in by the end of the season. So I think they'll run the ball well, and if Stevie Johnson and Mike Crabtree can catch maybe combined 1,500 yards, maybe verging on 2,000, I think that they could really be successful. I don't think they're going to win the NFC, but, everyone knows who we have at number 1 now.
So Seattle Seahawks, obviously.
Yeah.
I think they're the best team. I don't know if they're going to repeat for the Super Bowl this year. I'm not a betting man, mainly because I don't have the money to be able to do that. But
and me as well.
Yeah, if I was, I would actually put money on the Broncos. I think that the Broncos have the potential to win the Super Bowl this year. I think they have an easier road, so they won't be beat up as bad coming into it. But that's kind of beside the point. So, but I still think the Seahawks are the best constructed team right now, despite what they lost on defense in the offseason. Basically, all of them migrated to the Jaguars.
Yeah.
And, so, they lost some pieces on defense, but getting Percy Harvin back, assuming he even plays... 10 games of Percy Harvin is better than no games of Percy Harvin. So,
and they're going to need it because they're not deep at wide receiver. They dug
Definitely
Baldwin,
not.
but after that, Curse, I guess. But losing Golden Tate doesn't help. But when you have Marshawn Lynch, Christine Michael may even do pretty well this season, you're not going to need that much of a pass game. And Russell Wilson is a guy who's going to air it out like Aaron Rodgers. So it's not the biggest deal to not have deep wide receivers. So I don't think that that's going to be that big of a problem for them. And then you have defense. You have Richard Sherman, who just screams at people and intimidates them. I'm scared of Richard Sherman. So I think they're going to continue doing what they do.
And that's saying a lot, Matt. You're not scared of very many things.
No, not at all.
Besides cheese and hamburgers. And...
look at me. I look like a strong person. But, no.
That's what we miss about Jesse, the intimidation factor.
Yeah, Jesse would... Jesse would wear sleeveless shirts. He wouldn't even have to put his sleeve up, and he'd already look intimidating. I look very not intimidating, but that Seahawks defense does. So I think that they'll step up like they always do, and I still think if I had to pick someone, I'd pick the Seahawks to win right now. But the Broncos are my number 2 team. I don't see right now a way that it's going to be something other than Seahawks Broncos, but you have 49ers, Patriots, Packers, Saints, who could all factor into it as well.
Yeah. Well, is that all? Anything else you want to add, Matt? I'm fresh out.
No, my strength has been exposed now, so okay. I think I should just go off and be weak somewhere.
Well, we appreciate everybody who tuned in for the first podcast of the semester. We'll have this up on video, and I'll also be converting it into audio, so there'll be a couple different ways to listen. So we appreciate everyone who hung with us through all 32 NFL teams. Enjoy the first weekend of football, and go Terrence West.